warm welcome to the grand finale of India International Cargo and Logistics Show, IICS Exhibition and Conference 2024. I am Sana Said, your host for this remarkable event, and I'm super excited and thrilled to have all of you here at the day 3. The final day, what has been an extraordinary journey, ladies and gentlemen, in the world of logistics and cargo. We are truly honored to host you at India's largest logistics exhibition, where air, ocean, and surface logistics converge seamlessly under one roof. IICS 2024, powered by Samsara Group, continues to be India's most vibrant and comprehensive multimodal cargo and logistics event. It stands as a testament to the pivotal role of logistics in shaping the future of our economy and driving the nation forward. Over the last 2 days, we have witnessed a whirlwind of activity. Industry stalwarts sharing their visionary thought leadership, innovative brands showcasing groundbreaking solutions, and a buzzing exhibition floor filled with networking opportunities and new collaborations. But ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, let me also take a moment to thank our lovely sponsors and partners. Powered by Samsara Group, Platinum sponsor Turkish Cargo, Gold sponsor Etihad Cargo, Lanyard sponsor GW Group, Banking partner DBS Bank India, Bag sponsor Adani Airport Holdings, and lounge sponsor Kali Logistics Solutions. From the grand inauguration to the impactful discussions, IICS 2024 has become a powerhouse of insights and inspirations, equipping us with all the strategies to lead this industry into a future of innovation, collaboration, and global excellence. With the energy for the past 2 days fueling us, day 3 promises to be the crowning jewel of the journey. So packed with engaging panel discussions, thought-provoking insights, and even more opportunities to connect. Today is the day to reflect, strategize, and take actionable ideas back to our workplaces.
Thank you so much. First of all, let's begin with a thank you to the audience. Thank you for being here at 11 o'clock in the morning. And a big round of applause for our panelists who are here, and thank you so much everyone for taking the time out. Today we will discuss a topic which is not just a trend but the need of the hour for the global supply chain, and the world needs it, sustainability. Let us get right to it and try and understand what is sustainability, what is the definition of sustainability, what is sustainability to you as an individual and or as an organization. And let's begin with Captain Atul here.
Yeah, thank you, Pradeen, and good morning, everyone. So I'll just take us a year back when we were here at the same stage discussing Sustainability 2.0, that is sustainability beyond words. So building on that, it was an effort to understand that what is coming up for us in the future, where on the regulatory side or on the innovation side. So I come from the ocean transport sector, maritime transport. So just to give you a perspective, today 3% of the global CO2 emissions come from shipping, and 90% of that emissions, 940 million tons of CO2 comes from deep sea transport, where we are into. So obviously this is building up. So now is the time, I would say, we have to be in the top tier, where we have to take efforts and make amends so that the future and the environment for our future generation is protected. So from last year to this year, from our perspective, we have invested into new vessel technologies. We have gone for multi-fuel vessels. So On the organization side, we've invested about $1.2 billion into getting 12 new vessels. These vessels are first of its kind, where a marine engine is developed to run on 4 different types of fuel without any extraneous modifications. So it can run on heavy fuel oil, which is the traditional fuel. It can run on LNG, ammonia, and methanol. So we spoke briefly about 2050 in the introduction. So as an organization, to do one step more for the environment, we have committed ourselves to be net zero by 2040. That is 10 years earlier than the IMO target. And by 2027, we will be running all these 12 ships, or most of them, on ammonia, which will be the cleanest fuel, zero carbon emission. So that is where it is. Maybe we can come back later on and discuss more in depth.
Wow, so it is about hybrid ships, if we may call it, and then that's like the technology is changing the world. I would like to bring in Shankar sir. Sir, if you can give me your opinion as to what is sustainability, what does it mean to you?
Yeah. Morning everybody. Thank you for the question. It started with a very small word called carbon. And earlier Captain mentioned we seem to be the poster boy because we can see the carbon up in the sky. It's a fact, 3% of carbon emission in the sky comes from the transportation, primarily from the air transportation. But having said that, the sustainability has gone beyond. It's not just the person who's emitting the carbon, also what they use, who are their suppliers, who are their vendors, and how profitable and sustainable can you be if you change the technology, or as the sustainability word got expanded. Just because when you change technology, few people fall off the ship, they run out of businesses. That's not the idea. People have to be still engaged fruitfully, profitably, at the same time made environmentally responsible. Social awareness has to exist. So the whole scope changed within 3 years, especially seeing the environment conditions around the world. So per se, our segment of air carrier, at least for my company, Lufthansa Cargo, I can say, we have invested in new age aircrafts. They are lighter, they burn less fuel, far more fuel efficient engines, equally fuel savings. We have even done innovation to the level that the fuselage is covered with something called AeroShark film. Many people may know, may not know. The film helps reducing the fuel consumption by 1% per trip. That itself is a big achievement. We have light containers. To give an example, your baggage goes in a container which was earlier 90 kilos, 88 to be precise. Today it's 66 or 60. Similarly, lighter net. So less weight you have on the aircraft, the more freight you can carry, the less fuel you will burn. At the same time, are we stopping there? No. This is under our scope, what we can correct. Primarily, our fuel consumption has to improve. Today, the high-speed diesel that we use emits a lot of carbon. So we're looking at blended fuel as of 1st January. As per the EU norms, which is applicable to all European companies, so is Lufthansa under the gambit. We are also, to a fair extent, not forced, I would say voluntarily agreeing to have blended fuel included in our fuel transportation at least 2% of spend next year. Is that fuel cheap? No, it's anything about 7 to 8 times higher than the average diesel. But voluntarily and consciously we are going to put that in for a better future tomorrow. I can see a lot of black hair, at least me and grey hair, and that's what we will leave for the next generation, and not a black hole in the sky. So that's where we come from, but during the discussion we will explain more what the airline segment, especially my company, is doing.
Thank you so much for that, sir. Thank you. So we've seen carbon in the ocean, we've seen carbon in the air, and so let's bring in Mr. Subodh to bring in his view of what is sustainability and why is it important in today's world.
Good morning everyone. I belong to Rent-to-Kill Initial. For those who are not aware, Rent-to-Kill Initial is into pest and hygiene management. Yeah, okay. So for those who are not aware, Rent-to-Kill Initial is into pest and hygiene management. So basically, when I say pest management, we are into consumption of pesticides and insecticides. Nowadays, everybody is talking about organic, right? And when I say I belong to an industry wherein we consume huge amount of pesticides, probably the next question asked is, how is that going to affect our health? Rentokil Initial, we are committed and our mission statement very clearly says we are here to protect our people and at the same time preserve our planet. So that's the Rentokil's mission statement. We have taken a very firm stand that we want to be carbon neutral by the year 2040. To me and to my organization, when we speak about sustainability, it's not only, are we net carbon zero, or how are we trying to ensure that our operations are not emitting carbon. So basically, it has to be end-to-end operations wherein, by the use of technology, by using innovations, we have to have a certain procedures defined. So whatever we, at every step, whatever we consume, whatever we use, whatever we give out, will that be sustainable? Is that going to improve the public life? Is that going to affect our environment, or are we going to, say all our operations end to end are not harming the environment? Because we need to give something back to the society, we need to give something to the next generation and the generations to follow. So for us, sustainability is very clear. I mean, it's not only that we have to practice sustainability, it has to be as a value, it has to be built in each and every aspect of the operations that we do. And that's how we treat sustainability.
Thank you so much. So sustainability is about leaving the world a better place. I will love to bring Mr. Samit Datta in for his views.
Yeah, hi, good morning, and thank you for having me on the podium. So I represent BGP Glass. We manufacture glass bottles for the cosmetics, perfumery, food, pharma, specialty beverages businesses. So the best way to imagine my company is to walk down a duty-free store and look at the left and the right. You'll see perfume bottles on the left and you'll see the booze bottles on the right. So we manufacture bottles. So glass as a media is actually one of the most sustainable materials in the world. It's infinitely recyclable. However, to manufacture glass, there's a lot of energy that is consumed, so it's a big guzzler of energy as well. And hence, to that extent, it's a very, very large polluter. So for us, and even for me personally, sustainability means several things. One is, of course, taking care of the environment. But because we have about 6,000 people who walk into our factories every day, there's a massive social angle to the whole thing as well. And of course, because we are also a Blackstone-owned company, there's a huge emphasis on governance. So the balance between both, all three, the E, S and the G, is what we look at sustainability in its true terms. Now while this may sound as a very theoretical answer, as a company, we have been working very actively across all the domains, right from, let's say, we have about 75% of our electricity needs being met by renewables. We have a lot of programs around water conservation. We have a lot of our transportation, which we're actually now converting from the diesel trucks to the LNG trucks. And we are going actively into, looking at how we can maintain the social side of things. So for example, about 400 workers that walk into our factory are deaf and mute. Because what we need is their eyes. We don't need their mouths to speak or to do things. So I think this balance is what we look at, and that's what our strive is with respect to maintaining this word sustainability.
I think a round of applause for Samit and his company for creating equal opportunity. Thank you. And so sustainability is about more than carbon change, and there are many aspects to it. Thank you for sharing that. This is one the same question. What does sustainability mean to you?
Yeah, good morning everyone. I represent Ingram Micro. So we are a global largest distributor of IT goods, IT products, hardware, software, cloud solutions, etc. So we are behind 90% of global organizations as far as their technology is concerned, either directly or indirectly. We are a B2B organization. So coming to this question as far as sustainability is concerned, the way I look at it, sustainability is involved in everything that we do as business. So it's regarding doing your business with responsibility. Now, it is not only the business, right? At an individual level also, as individual human beings, are we really responsible, or we are leaving everything to the corporate world to think about sustainability? So for me, sustainability encompasses everyone, me, you, and everyone sitting in this room across the globe. And it's a mindset. Sometimes we only run after numbers, right? How much carbon emission my organization could able to save. So there are certain targets, all those net zero, etc. Those are all numbers. But in terms of our mindset, are we really thinking sustainability every day, right? For me, that is important.
Thinking sustainability every day. Thank you so much. That's a very thought-provoking statement. Thank you so much. I think let's move on to the next part of it. As in, we've mentioned that Captain here has hybrid vessels. While Lufthansa is all about losing weight, so to say. Does sustainability, is it good for the pocket? Let me ask that very simply. How do you strike a balance between doing well and doing good? How do you tell the stakeholders that we're spending a little bit more money, but it is good for the world? How do you strike the balance? So, can you bring in Captain sir?
A very valid question. This is something which, what's the cost of sustainability, or what's the cost of being carbon neutral? Everything that goes into a supply chain ends up the final customer being, is he ready to pay for it, which is us, consumers. So from our point of view in the shipping sector, which I can put light on, two things which hit us in the industry very badly was one, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and the recent Red Sea closure conflict, which led to, all the sustainability targets went up in the air because the ships suddenly had to go around the Cape, spend 12 days more fuel, and that adds up to the carbon emission, or what would have been if the vessels would have gone through the Red Sea. So obviously this adds to a lot of cost increase for our customers who are shipping goods with us. But at the same time, what we you can say, capitalized on is that, where can we strike the balance, as you said. So we switched part of our fleet into using biofuels, which obviously were a little bit more expensive, but in terms of the carbon efficiency, they are much, much better than the regular heavy fuel oil that we do on our vessels. Secondly, what we did was that with regards to modern AI technology. So we invested a couple of years back into use of AI technology for navigation. So the technology has helped us to optimize our route, optimize the speed of the ships, also optimize on the trim, which is the how the ship is trimmed, whether it is by head or by stern, depending on the weather conditions, etc. That has helped us to bring in a lot of efficiency into the system, which again indirectly gets passed on and sort of balances the extra expense that you spend on use of these things. But yes, eventually it will be a thing where we feel that the regulatory aspect will guide this cost, because 2050 is a tough target. There are countries which are going hard on it. That is what will drive the thing, where customers will invariably have to pay for the increase in the cost of procurement of these fuels, which over a period of time, once the demand picks up and things stabilize, it will eventually drive down. That's the dynamics of the market.
Would you feel that optimization of cost, especially I would link optimization with sustainability, would you think that optimization would help to reduce the cost or make it more balanced as the years go by?
Absolutely. Optimization and use of technology. Because technology is growing at a very rapid pace. So it just can't be that you build ships with different fuel type, but it's also how you can optimize your routes, how you navigate the ships around, as well as on the shore side, how you produce that fuel or how you procure the fuel. So that also is something where the technology is evolving, I would say.
Thank you. I think it's a good time to bring in Shankar sir. So air freight being one of the most challenging in terms of pricing, and with the various geopolitical tensions going around, how do you still manage to bring in, convince people to use sustainable aviation fuel, which will cost a little bit more maybe?
Good question. I'm still wondering how I'll do it on 1st Jan, but a very tough one. See, it's very evident. Do we have a choice? I think frankly, no. We are seeing the environment disrupting our life left, right and center everywhere around the world. We cannot be very narrow and myopic. We have to look at the larger impact of the world. So frankly, there's no choice. Like earlier Captain said, when more and more people use that blended fuel or sustainable fuel, the cost of production and supply will go down and eventually the client will benefit. But every time you start something new, the cost is high. So coming to you, as a carrier, as Lufthansa Cargo, we have no choice. We have a clear mandate from the European government and our government in Germany saying that you have to factor in the cost. Are we able to pass the whole cost to the clients? I don't think so. But in a small way, we will have to. But at one point of time, the sustainability will extend to even our profitability and survival. And at one time, it cannot burn a hole in our pocket. So somewhere, the ultimate user has to take it. Let's look at the exporter industry. You know, we are their scope 2 and scope 3. While they look at their own carbon footprint, they look at their vendors also. And we as vendors, if we, as transporters, if we reduce our footprint, and eventually the exporting industry also benefits. This is a cyclical thing. You cannot isolate yourself or be very narrow and just say, okay, the cost is too high. You know, you need to somehow not accept it or something. No, it's not a choice anymore.
It's not a choice anymore. I think that's the important word. It's like you have to pay that little bit more, but then this is the right thing. So let me get in Subodh ji, and I will also pose the same question to Samit ji. You know, as two industries which are maybe, you know, the cost of how do you balance the cost efficiency and environmental responsibility? You know, that's the question. You know, especially since these are big industries. May I have your views on that?
Yeah, so it's not only cost versus sustainability. It's a three-dimensional thing. One is cost, one is your sustainability agenda, and the third part is customer expectation. So how do you make, you know, best mix of all these three aspects? I would like to give an example from my organization. See, we are also into hygiene business, and we are in feminine hygiene, wherein we have those sanitary pad vending machines installed at our client's place. So the sanitary pad waste is classified as a biomedical waste. And there was one big question, how do we dispose of this biomedical waste? So there are certain rules and regulations under the Pollution Control Board. And for each state, there are different guidelines. And we have a presence in each state in India. So we have more than 300 branches across India. So, you know, so what we did, with the use of technology, we developed something called as LTTD, which is low temperature thermal destructors. So it's basically an incinerator wherein we burn this biomedical waste, and whatever we get out of it, it's basically in the ash form, we try to convert into, you know, some kind of gift article, and we again give it back to the customers. Right? So basically, we are on one end, we are driving our sustainability agenda. We are taking care of the waste. At the same time, you know, we are giving something back to the customers. And there are certain customers, obviously this comes at a higher cost, but there are certain customers who are, you know, they are in sync with our sustainability agenda. At the same time, they appreciate we are giving back something to the customers as well. So this is one part. Now we have gone a step ahead. We are also trying to go for a biodegradable kind of sanitary pads. So that's an addition, and that's at no extra cost. Probably it improves our profitability, it improves our volume, and gives a better satisfaction to the customers as well. One more example from my pest business. Under the pest business, we do fogging. I mean, most of you might have seen fogging, you know, that dua comes out for mosquitoes. So what we did, just to ensure that earlier we used to use petrol or diesel for this fogging operation. So we converted from diesel and petrol from this thermal fogging to cold fogging, which doesn't require diesel or petrol. It can be, there is a water-based chemical using which you can go for this cold fogging operation. This was one aspect. Second aspect, there was no smell. It was fogless. So we were very much pleased that we have achieved our sustainability agenda. However, there were certain customers who were not willing to buy this idea of fogless operation. They say there is no smell, there is no fog. That means you are cheating us. You have not done the fogging operation. We were trying to give better value to the customers. We are trying to support the environmental clause. At the same time, in some places that was not accepted. So, as I said, it's a mix of customer expectation, what value addition you give. There is an additional cost to the organization. But yes, if you make a good mix, you can definitely, derive profit out of it.
So understanding customer motivation is the key here.
Yeah.
Also doing the right thing. So can I meet Mr. Samit ji for your views? Especially since you own the Blackstone, so you must be really looking at the numbers.
Yeah, we do look at the numbers, but I think I'll try and answer this question from a little philosophical perspective, saying that what's the responsibility and what's the intent? The responsibility can be internally driven or it can be mandated. Okay? So, like Subodh mentioned about sustainability, environment and customer, I would put it as sustainability, technology, that's one part, customer as the second part, and the economics as the third part. Ultimately, people will gravitate to something which is affordable, so the economics has to work out. And like Captain Atul mentioned that until it kind of becomes affordable, people will not pick it. So, we are at a time when there is a lot of experimentation happening, whether it is fuels, whether it is practices, this talk about green hydrogen, green ammonia, and a lot of things. A lot of our business is mandated by what the customers want, because the customers need to look good, and most of our customers are based in the US and Europe. And they mandate that you must use certain amount of percentage of the glass batch to be broken glass. जो हम कबाड़ी वाले को बेचते हैं, उसको वापस आप लाइए and then use that. And then they put a target, 15%, 20%, 25%, 30%. So the whole thing now leads to about how do you bring a reverse logistics back into the plants. So that's one aspect, and that's not easy, especially for a vast country like India, which is consuming lots of goods. It's not easy. I'll give you an example. So our plants are located in the state of Gujarat, which is a dry state, and we manufacture amber bottle for beer, which is the brown bottle. How do you now get this? You have to go all the way outside Gujarat to get it in. So there is a cost of logistics out there. But once it's mandated, what happens is companies do become innovative and they start thinking, they start scratching their heads, and they look for a lot of technologies. The moment you have that, you have the set of people who's looking at innovation, who's looking at sustainability and the likes of those, there are solutions that come out. Some of them are affordable, and I just mentioned that renewable power. I think we are going to be about 100 megawatts of installed capacity by December 2025, which will cater to about 80%, 75 to 80% of our total electricity needs. There's a clear trade-off between the purchase price of power from the DISCOM versus the renewable power. But that means costs. Now, that means I need to have deep pockets to invest. But here again, I think the financial institutions and the banking sector is also opening up. They are far more welcoming. They give you a softer loans the moment they find out you're trying to do something green. So, really speaking, we must look at this as a holistic thing and try and approach it holistically. If we think we're just going to win the battle by being cost sensitive, it's not going to happen, because we know these are expensive. But if you're innovative, if you're a little more enterprising, you can go about hunting for the right technologies, the fitment of the right technologies to what you are doing, as well as the right finances and the fitment of the right finances. So the skill really isn't doing this rather than complaining about, oh, this is expensive, whether the customer will pay and so on and so forth. So that's the way we run it also.
Would it be fair to say that the whole ecosystem around is changing and then the world is becoming more accepted towards, like as you mentioned, banks are giving softer loans and then there are new alternate modes of fuel or power. So the ecosystem around us is changing. Would it be fair to say that?
Yeah, it's changing, it's transforming, but it's not yet there. I think this decade, and this is my view, purely my view, this decade is a decade of trying to form a lot of things. So there's a lot of activities happening. I think something will emerge by 2028, 29, which will become more affordable and then people will stick to it. So many things are coming together. The last decade was all about noise. There's global warming, 2 degrees, 3 degrees. I don't think people now talk about 2, 3 degrees, 3 degrees. They actually see floods in Bangalore, floods in Mumbai, floods in everywhere. So the 2, 3 degree conversation is out of the table. Now people get affected. So people have now started thinking about it as a whole. It's still in pockets. The finance guys are doing finance, the technology guys are doing technology, the supply chain guys are doing supply chain. But I think this will all come together because something will emerge. And it will be different for different things. So it will be different for air, it will be different for sea, it will be different for roads. I can't think of an electric ship, at least now. Captain, you may want to, educate me. But it will happen. Eventually it may happen because the battery technologies are still way behind. But eventually it will happen. So when it happens, I think many things will happen. But affordability is the most key.
Thank you so much. So I think from what my four panelists have echoed, I think one thing that is really part of everybody's answer is technology. So let me bring in the tech man, so to say. Let me bring in Didhiman and ask you, what's your perspective? How do you balance sustainability versus environmental responsibility versus cost efficiency?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I'm sure most of the people who are present here represent logistics industry, and it's a common challenge for all of them that as a logistics person, how do you optimize your cost, give better service to the customer, at the same time meet these sustainability goals, right? So the same with us also. As I say, we are a B2B organization. And then we thought that the consumer behavior, which is changing in the B2C industry, is not going to impact us. But good morning to us that we are facing the same situation currently. So what do I mean by that? In the consumer industry, the customer has become more and more demanding, which makes the job of sustainability is much more challenging job, right? So with the expectation of a 10-minute and 5-minute delivery, how do you meet your goals of sustainability? In B2B industry, we never had that kind of an expectation from our customers. They were happy getting the material in 1 day or 2 days, something like that. But today, when we go and meet the customers, they are giving us examples of Blinkit. So if Blinkit can deliver in 15 minutes, why can't you? So it becomes very difficult to make them understand because we supply 5,000 laptops to a particular reseller of laptops. So 5,000 laptops delivering in 15 minutes, it's a tough job. But still, that's the customer ask, and customer is the king. So how do you solve that? So one of the ways that we are solving it is, and while also finding a balance between cost and service, is we went to customers, we divided their requirements in terms of bulk orders and the small orders. So many times what happens is, as far as technology is concerned, in your office there is a requirement of 50 laptops, there is a shortfall of 50 laptops. And your usual process of ordering it will take time because there is a capex approval process and all those approval processes are there. So somebody wants those 50 laptops urgently. For that they go to a reseller or a distributor and then see that whether do you have those 50 laptops available. So the availability of the inventory becomes a big challenge. So what we have done in the major metro cities, we have started a concept of city forwarding location. So inside the city we have opened a small space and the top selling brands of laptops, the mobile phones, the memory cards, memory devices, we started keeping it there. So thereby, all those small orders that the resellers are having, say 10 units, 15 units, we supply those units from there. Now while that serves their requirement of urgent delivery, what we have found very interesting, that is also helping me to reduce my cost to a certain extent. Because in those city forwarding locations, although the cost of the warehousing is high, but I need not put a dedicated vehicle to supply, because it is impossible to fly a dedicated vehicle inside the city during the daytime, right? So we are using bikes and also the e-bikes to deliver those goods to the customer. So when I convert it into per unit logistics cost, actually it is economical from that perspective. And the other thing, which is the inventory turns are pretty high, because we are very selected in terms of what kind of SKUs we are going to keep there. So those are the items which I do replenish every evening, and then by next evening 70 to 80% of the inventory is gone. So with that quick inventory turns, we could able to maintain our logistics expenses, while at the same time the sustainability is also taken care of, because I have those e-bikes taking care of those deliveries. So this is only one example. So similarly, there are a lot of examples that I have. Possibly the time is not there. So I'm sure that the audience also will have a lot of examples to share, wherein you are trying to find out this balance between the logistics cost against the service, right? So I will stop here for the paucity of time.
Thank you. No, I think so. Innovation and tech is one of the playing its pivotal role in driving sustainability, and I think that would be fair to say that from the discussion here. I have now an open question to the panel that tech also pollutes, right? We have a lot of nuclear power plants which are coming in, and our energy consumption has gone up. Tech also increases demand. Like Blinkit, if I want something, I want it in 15 minutes. So how do you balance? So where is the point where we say enough of tech, or you say enough of tech versus because I want to be more sustainable, or do we see a future that where we say more of tech or less of tech? And I would open the question to the dais. Maybe Mr. Datta, would you like to come? Sustainability as well as tech.
It's a difficult question you asked. I think we're going to consume tech more than we're going to consume breakfast and lunch. That's for sure.
Is it because of the generation change?
No, it's not to do with generation change. It's, I think, to do with the way we have to live and be eligible to live life. That's the way. So it's a little bit of survival of the fittest kind of a point. I think we are somewhere at this stone age where there is a thing called a wheel which has come in. Okay, and I'm using wheel as an analogy of technology. The wheel can itself be done and can be modified to multiple things to do its basic thing about rolling, but also then making, let's say, movement easy and stuff like that. So technology is here to stay. It will keep changing. It will get disrupted, because what was technology 10 years ago? Let's say 15 years ago, I don't think we had smartphones. We had those Blackberries, thousands of others, to where we are today. This will happen, and the need for electricity, etc., will increase. There will be a time, we're now talking about green hydrogen and green ammonia and everything. We don't realize, and we're not talking about this, that water is probably the most scarce resource in the world today. And we don't talk about it. We talk about carbon, we talk about SOx, NOx and stuff like that. I'm just wondering, when hydrogen or green hydrogen becomes prevalent, what will happen to the water tables? As I speak, we have 2 plants in India. One plant is already having a water shortage. I have to purchase water from outside and maintain it at a certain TDS to give it back to the effluent. There again, there's a lot of technology being used. This is not the tech of mobile phones as we think, where we are looking at zero discharge and zero ZLDs and stuff like that. So a lot of things are happening, and I think technology in all forms, whether it's AI, ML, like Captain mentioned, we use a lot of AI, ML as well as for route optimization, load optimization, product design. So we are looking at lightweighting bottles eventually, so that when we put it in the ship, it's a lightweight and it's helping the ship. So somewhere we all have certain responsibilities, and I think technology will be pervasive. Conventional engineering, so the mechanical engineers and electrical engineers, be happy, you still have a relevant job, as well as the computer science and data science guys, you also have a relevant job. The world will remain the same, it will just be at an elevated level.
Thank you, thank you. Sorry, yes,
To add to this, I mean, there will be three things that we all need to look into. One is convenience. You mentioned Blinkit. Okay, I'll give a simple example. We are all here sitting talking about sustainability, but on all our tables we have these plastic bottles for water. Imagine how many of these bottles, when they go into the landfill, what will happen to the environment. So, but then it's convenient, it's easily available. So, one is sustainability over convenience. That is the commitment. And secondly is as of course it's a good business case for Mr. Datta, to replace these bottles with glass bottles. But on the other thing where the consumer has to drive this, I think a big role will be on the regulatory aspect, because you given a choice, how much ever you educate, you create awareness, you commit yourself, but end of the day when it comes to cost, it's what drives you, because nobody is willing to pay extra cost out of their free will, unfortunately, for the sake of the environment. So if today the government says that okay, you have to pay 30% tax on your income and 1% is optional to contribute towards the environment, I'm 100% sure that the collection will not be that much. But if the government introduces that as a cess, we will be forced to pay, and then we don't have a choice. So I think a lot of it will be depending on the regulatory aspect, where that will drive convenience and free will, or the will out of it. So that is very important.
So the question I ask is, if we come on people to do good, will it work, or do we just make it mandatory? So I'd like to bring in Shankar sir, since what is the role of the regulatory bodies? What is the role of the government in driving sustainability?
I'll give a very simple example. Time and again, our finance ministry, the Indian finance ministry says, only 5 people of this population pays tax. With the 5% of population paying tax, our country's come such a long way. Imagine if it was 100%. I think I answered your question there. So, somewhere, if people are not coming on board and if they're not seeing value, it could be called it's called market force. Market forces for the Indian businessman is the importer, and if the importer is regulated, automatically the Indian exporter becomes compliant. So it's better to adapt it more willingly rather than being forced to do it. So it's a conundrum. At the same time, eventually, if you look at it today, how many people go today to a travel agent to issue an airline ticket? Everything is on your phone. Nobody does it. It's a sea of a change. 20 years back it was resisted, today it's accepted. So somewhere you mentioned tech also pollutes, but tech is also an enabler. It helps you make better life, and end of the evening everybody has to say, in my business, what is my scope? Am I in scope 1, scope, I could be scope 2 for somebody, and it could be scope 3. Exactly how I'm polluting the whole environment there. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Can I
Yes.
So first I would say about the regulatory part. As I belong to insecticide industry, regulations is something what is a mandate for us. But in a way, there are the rules are so stringent. The cost of non-compliance is absolutely high, and the company MD can be jailed. So under the Insecticide Act, so rules are so stringent. But in a way, that is driving us to go for something which is green chemistry, something which is not covered under this Insecticide Act. And in a way, it is trying to push us towards, sustainability. So it is helping us. The rules, the guidelines are in a way, trying to push us towards being green. So that's one part. And I would also like to give an example how technology can help you improve your operational efficiency, at the same time cut down on the cost. we have rodent services wherein we catch rats, right? Just to give an example, this Geo Convention Center, suppose if I have to do rodent services here, I need to place say at least 200 to 300 rodent boxes and across the entire periphery. So with the help of technology now, these rodent boxes, they come with a SIM-based technology wherein only the moment a rat is tracked, I get the SMS that under certain so and so box number a rat is tracked. So earlier my technician had to travel throughout day and open up all the 300 boxes and check whether there is a trap inside. Now I just get 3 or 4 SMSs, only these 4 boxes has a catch. I just need to go open up those boxes. So what earlier used to consume 10 hours, I can do it in now 30 minutes. So the technology has in fact helped me reduce my manpower, the resources I can control in a much better way. It helps you improve your cost as well.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. I'll bring in Zitiman for your views about the regulatory environment. Is there any economic incentive across the value chain? What role the economic incentive across the value chain would play in driving sustainability, especially from a government perspective?
I would like to address it from a different angle. I think if you look at the role of regulatory from a government perspective, there are many good things that are happening in terms of the development of the roads, the toll booths, making the toll booths clock free, so your vehicle can directly pass through and then automatically the toll charges will get deducted. So there are certain very good things that are happening at a government regulatory infrastructure development level. But there are certain things at a very basic level, I think government regulatory has to taken care of. Just a simple example. In the digital policy or in the electronic policy for Government of India, they say that it is okay to have a digital document instead of a physical document copy for many government regulatory requirements. And there have been areas in customs, you see, today a lot of digitization has happened. You need not carry those heavy printouts to the customs department for your shipment clearance. Fantastic thing that has happened. If I talk about our industry, the area wherein we would like to require government to have some attention is on the aspect of the e-POTs. Okay. As per government regulation, it is mentioned in the document that e-POD is okay legally. But in the real sense, when there is a dispute that happens in the court of law, do they really accept e-POD? In our case, it is not. Because in our case, the claims are heavy, 5 crore, 10 crore, 50 crore kind of claims are there. In those cases, when we go to fight that case in the court of law, every time we are asked, document dikhao.
But when you go to the court, and are you taking a print of the e-POD or are you submitting it online?
Yeah, so that's a good question. That's what we want. Unfortunately, even an e-POD printout is not enough. They say that where is the physical signature on the document. And as a part of, this is also a sustainability goal, right? You have to transfer to electronic forms of documents. This is something I have spoken in one particular forum when some government secretary was also there, and he mentioned that yes, this is something we are working on. So I think from a regulatory point of view, they need to walk the talk, and that is needed. In the real sense, whether the policies are helping the business is something very government has to pay attention.
Thank you. I'll bring in something.
In some of the government departments, while the submission of form is online, the collection of the output is always offline. Most of the departments.
I'll bring in Samitji from your perspective, sir. Is enough done from an Indian perspective vis-a-vis what is happening across the world from a regulatory perspective, or is there a gap there, and how do we address those gaps?
So, depends on which sector we are talking about. The government is evolving. The current day government is very, very alert to the changes. I think, as you were mentioning before the meeting that this is India's century. So India's got a long way to go back to improving several indexes. So India is a complicated country, but the government of the day is trying, and I think we should give them that credit. Whether it's hard infrastructure, I mean the city of Mumbai now going to Nariman Point is so easy. So there is real investments that are happening. There's a lot of digital work that is happening, but like any other thing, there are mismatches, there are timing issues and those kind of things, and then that's where that leads to the red tapeism. So I think he mentioned about the EPOD. It's very funny that about 2 days ago we were just discussing the exactly same point in our company. But if I look at, let's say, the policies around, let's say, something like ULIP, which is the Unified Logistics Policy, I think there's a lot of good work that's happening out there, and the government is trying. Are they matching everything? The answer is no. So I'll give an example. So they are saying we'll integrate everything with the respect of FASTags. But FASTags to my factory may be 20 kilometers off the highway. What happens to my last mile? So there are those gaps, and we must give credit to the government. At least it's trying. Now everything the government and regulator cannot do, we also have a responsibility as individuals, as companies, to play our part to close that gap. So I think it's a combination.
I think I just bring in a perspective that bringing change across 1 billion people is not as easy as said and done. So kudos to the government for the efforts that they're doing. We have our last 2 minutes and then we invite the audience for a few questions. But then, so my question to Captain Sir and Shankar Sir is that do we see sustainable supply chains in our lifetime, or when do we say okay, job done? How close or how far are we from what we set out to achieve?
Yeah, I think we are very close. Things have been, last few years, I would say post-COVID, things have accelerated. And again, I come back to that a lot of it is driven by regulation. As Shankar sir said, that 1st of January, what is pushing for shipping, it came in 1st of January last year, where the ships have to be a certain carbon intensity indicator, which classifies you. So the customers, Europe has been and US has been more advanced on the regulatory side, where there are heavy penalties if you don't comply. That is driving a lot of change in our industry towards sustainability, where now the customers are demanding live dashboards to see carbon emission per nautical mile per car, how it is going for them, and then we have developed those capabilities for them through our partners, and they need that certification. So that is where it is becoming serious, and it has got serious repercussions in terms of the regulatory aspect, and that is what is primarily driving more than the care for the environment is what I would say.
I think would it be fair to say, since we last met at Sustainability Beyond Words, things have really accelerated and we are headed in the right direction?
Absolutely, yes, and things are moving. India is also moving when we talk of Indian context. Last year the government announced the Harit Sagar concept, where they are investing into terminals which will have clean hydrogen bunkering for the ships, which is, I would say it is at least 4 years ahead the target as compared to one of some of the oil major companies in the Middle East. So the government is making its effort, and I think we all as consumers need to support that and take our small steps and be ready that we have used the world for the last whatever years of our life. We have to leave it not at the same, but at least in a manageable space for the next generation. I think that is a commitment that will drive a lot of things in the future.
Let's leave the world a better place. Shankar sir, 1st January, what's happening? And the last question to you, sir, when do we say job done?
Let me first go back to the statement of the government. It's not the government which is forcing you to bring the papers. It's the people who are operating in the government who have not adapted technology. I have a pleasant experience with certain departments where they say don't come with this paper, in some places I have to. So it's the younger generation, when they get into the government, we'll see a change. So that's one take on that. 1st Jan, yes, I take people back to the Paris conference, which was 5 years back, where the melting Iceland and the glaciers and everything was shown, and It started with a very horrific video tour. It's not at a, it's almost at the doorstep everywhere. So you ask the question, will you see it in a lifetime? I think it's already halfway when people are educated and aware. Now coming to the first giant, that's the impact that there's a very clear dictum in Europe that the industries have to adapt. They have to show, not just talk. 4 years they spoke. Now as a first giant, all the carriers out of Europe will be asked to use blended fuel, which will be at least to begin with 2%, at least for us as Lufthansa will be 2%, and that's where the cost will come in.
So it's no longer about changing gears, but it's about hitting the accelerator now.
Yes, accelerator maybe sometimes 0 to 100 in 1 second kind of a thing.
Amazing, thank you. My last question to my skipper panel here, and then I would only give you like 30 seconds each because I really want to take a few questions from the audience. But then, how do you integrate your stakeholders in driving sustainability? What are the efforts there? And then, from your perspective, what are the targets? Would you like to start, sir? Whoever.
So, I think it's Sam down the way. You to do also. It's as simple as that. It may sound very crude. We Indians are very resilient in whatever we do. But I think if we speak to them, speak to our partners, now I'm talking about partners as vendors, they do understand it. I think it's an education issue. Some don't, then you need to put some price to it. Okay, and from the customer side, I think the mandate is coming as Shankar mentioned. So as they are doing Sam Dam Dandal, we also have to do that. So,
I wish I could repeat the word, but I wish he's giving me the stares. Sir, Subodhji, may I bring in your point of view, sir?
Yeah. So basically, he picked up that point. Basically, we need to have this inbuilt in our education system, going forward. How do we sustain the sustainability part of it? Because sustainability is not a destination, it's going to be an ongoing journey. And it has to be ever improving and ever changing, dynamic sort of. So we need to have this built in our education system so that the next generation automatically learns it and takes it right.
Thank you so much. Didhiman, how do you bring in your stakeholders to be more sustainable?
Yeah, since you've given only 30 seconds, I'll just touch upon one important aspect. In the technology industry, one very important aspect which impacts the sustainability environment is the e-waste. So what we are doing is that with many large global organizations who are our clients, so we have an understanding with them that whenever their technology comes to end of life, we actually take it back and then we dispose it off in a sustainable manner. And we also within the organizations we conduct various training programs to educate their employees on responsible disposal of the e-waste. So they can accumulate it, give it to their organization, and from there we can get it collected.
Education. I think education is the key word there. That educating your stakeholders is that is something which really drives sustainability. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
it's not only education, there is a price to education as well.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And I now open the dash to the audience for any questions.
Thank you. I'm from Lotus Celebrities, and set the context before asking the question. The question is Mr. Ayub. Now we have spoken about scope 2 and scope 3 emission reduction. We are manufacturing electrical escalators and we move lots of goods. So as a customer, how do I know how much scope 2, scope 3 I have saved when I move goods through you? That is my question. So I can convey that to my stakeholders. Thank you. Good question, but I'm equally blank. Yes, I would be your scope 2 because I'm a vendor if I'm transporting your goods. The maximum transparency I can give you is my scope 1 emissions, which is exactly the earlier talk of sustainable fuel that we use and how much we reduce in carbon. That can be mapped, so if you use the transportation mode of my company, we will be able to tell you this was the reduction that we could do for your shipment during transportation. How does that convert into credit for your company? I am unaware, I do not know. I don't think that's available in India right now, it's very nascent. but at least you have visibility on my processes, my consumptions, and at the same time, if you wish, I can even go one further. I can even unravel my scope 2 emissions, which is my ground handler as well. That's the level. So you know at certain point what we are saving on, so that will happen, say, when we blend the fuel. How does it convert for you in credits? I cannot answer that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Mr.
I-
Atul, again,
I have a answer. Maybe it's not the product that you ship with us, but just to give you an example, I spoke briefly earlier. We have a mechanism where we are giving the light dashboard to our customers, where they can track the carbon emission for their goods moved from point A to point B on a daily basis, and this is DNV certified. So it is the first in the industry in PCTC transportation where we are giving a certified carbon emission rating for the customers. There are various options you want from point of load to point of discharge. You want that how we are sourcing our fuel from the tank right up to the vessel and then into the air. So all these models we are providing to our customers because very relevant. This is the ask that they have when they go for their carbon reporting and for the regulatory compliance. So technology is available. I think it will evolve more and will become more user friendly. But this is something that we have done for our customers.
thank you, Mr. Atul.
Would it be fair to say that the emissions and the data is readily available and then it is for us, how do we stitch it together for our use?
It is little complicated if I say from our perspective, but yes, we took about a year and a half to understand how to best map it with the cargo that we are shipping. But that's why we involved, we wanted something which is more credible. So we involved. That's why DNV who certifies our calculations because everyone can make some calculation, but is that calculation authentic or is it can be used? So that is why we brought in that certification.
Thank you.
Firstly, let me just highlight something small. When you buy a ticket with an airline in Europe, at least with ours, there is a possibility, there is a factor called mind climate, which means you voluntarily, you are aware, you're saying, yes, I'll contribute towards that. I take the 12 euro or 20 euro extra add-on cost. And it says clearly during your mileage, this is going to save so much carbon when we buy the blended fuel somewhere else. So it's like, okay, not on your route, maybe in your aircraft that day you may not have the blended fuel, but definitely as an airline we are forced to buy a certain amount round the year guaranteed. And that's going to eventually save the carbon footprint by a certain percentage. So that visibility you have. So there are those mechanisms, but again, the client and the industry always says, I did all that, that's fine. Going in the line of CSR, there was a 2% benefit, right? That is not converted in India as yet.
Thank you, sir. I think Sam has a question.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Very interesting forum. Congratulations to all for speaking so well and bringing in your thoughts in front of us. I am Prashant from Galaxy Freight, working with Mr. Pradeep Markarwala, who is very much interested in sustainability.
Thank you. We have 15 seconds.
Yes. And the question is who and how do you manage macro levels and micro levels of integration in sustainability? Can you save the earth and humanity as a whole? So when are we going to think as one?
Possibly, that's a long question, but then maybe if you would like to answer in 30 seconds, sir.
I think there is only one answer. How we are going to do as one is we all have to commit as one to achieve this. I think there is nobody or no industry or no sector can singularly work towards saving the whole planet. Yeah, we can do our little bit part into our relevant stream, but I think as a whole, as a community, as a humanity, we have to think that what we are leaving for the future.
So we have times up in our Facebook.
Certainly just one statement. Yes, that's the reason we are sitting here, right? We are talking about it.
I think there's a lot more to discuss, but then time's up, and thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you for giving your time and sharing your perspective, and thank you to the audience for being here today. Thank you so much.
I will also thank Parveen for being such a wonderful moderator and conducting it in a very interactive and a good way. Thank you.
I thank Ayushi for that.